Hello, everyone, and welcome to our recorded training session for the grant review committees as we kick off another year of the grant review cycle. We are so glad that you are here and that you have stepped up to be a part of this process. We welcome you and we look forward to working with you. We will move forward towards determining who will ultimately compete for our grants in June. This video is the first of our 4-part video training series, and it will take about 18 minutes to complete. The additional 3 videos will be sent to you prior to each of your 3 review meetings, each one lasting between 5 and 8 minutes. These videos will contain more detailed training information related to that particular phase of our grant review cycle. We hope you enjoy this new training format, but we also want you to know that your questions are always welcome. So do not hesitate to reach out to the grants leadership team or your GRC chair or co-chair if you have any questions as we proceed through the grant cycle. Our grant cycle kicked off in December with the opening of our online portal, which is now accepting letters of intent, or LOIs, for review. This portal will remain open until mid-January. The LOIs we receive are the proposals which we will consider for this year as we move through the grant cycle. This first video is intended to give you an overview of the grant cycle and prepare you to take the first step in becoming a GRC review member. Impact Central Illinois is a collective giving organization. We pool together the donations of women from across our community, which enables us to fund large, impactful grants. We feel by choosing to fund larger grants, we fill a unique need in our community. In order to give away such high-dollar grant awards every year, we rely on members who agree that we are truly better together. Each of our members is equally important, which is why we believe in one woman, one vote. There is no requirement for involvement in Impact Central Illinois, which is why we are especially thankful to those of you who are willing to share of your time and your talents to serve on a grant review committee. Your efforts are critical to ensuring that the strongest proposals are presented to the entire membership as finalists to vote upon in June. We thank you for your commitment and your involvement. As our organization has grown, we have worked to clarify our types of grants as well as our focus areas. We award 2 different types of grants each year. Our first grant, highlighted in the 3 left columns, is called the Impact Grant. This grant is reserved for larger nonprofit organizations, and we have the goal for the amount of this grant to be at least $100,000. We hope to be able to award 1 impact grant in each of 3 focus areas. Our 3 focus areas are education and community development, health and community well-being, and social services and basic needs. These focus areas were determined by looking at the types of programs currently serving Central Illinois, and we believe that with the definitions of these 3 focus areas, all nonprofits serving our community are able to participate in our grant review cycle if they so desire. And we believe that by funding a grant in each of these 3 focus areas, we are making an impact across our entire community. Our second grant is called the Inspire Grant. You can note this grant in the far right column. This grant came about from the feedback and request of you, our members. It was the desire of our membership to set aside funds specifically reserved for smaller nonprofits doing important work in our community. Through an outreach program, we determined a grant amount that could truly help these smaller organizations. The Inspire Grant was created for and is reserved only for smaller nonprofit organizations. It is our goal that this grant award be at least $20,000 each year. Our Inspire Grant, however, does not break down into smaller focus areas and is open to any nonprofit within the size requirements and serving the residents of the Central Illinois region of Peoria, Tazewell, and/or Woodford counties. To begin our training, we need to understand who is eligible to apply for our grants. As mentioned before, our organization gives two different size grants, a $100,000 grant. These are our impact grants, and they are given to organizations with annual gross receipts greater than $250,000. While our smaller $25,000 or $20,000 grant, our Inspire grant, is reserved specifically for smaller nonprofits operating with less than $250,000 in annual gross receipts. An organization must have had their 501c3's tax status for at least 3 full years and must serve the residents of the Tri-County area. Finally, a proposal must support that organization's social outreach and or charitable service which benefits the community at large. It is important to understand that we will accept proposals from any 501c3 organizations meeting those criteria as long as their proposal supports the community at large. We accept proposals from both secular and religious organizations, and we do not ask the organization to hide or change their identity or methodology in order to compete for our grant awards. However, we do ask each organization to disclose the following situations so that you, our members of the Grant Review Committee, are able to weigh these facts about a proposal when you are evaluating it for its strength with respect to the other proposals received. The situations we ask for disclosure on are: 1. If the organization restricts participation in the proposal in any way. Number 2, if an organization requires statements of belief or requires affiliation with a group in order to receive services from the proposal. Number 3, if an organization requires public displays of support of an ideology and does not offer an option to refrain. We also do accept proposals regarding capital improvements on a building. However, we do require that the nonprofit either own the building in question or be in a long-term lease on that space for a minimum of 5 more years. Finally, there are a few things we do not fund. These include debt reduction, endowments or memorials, bridge or interim funding, operational deficits, partisan, political lobbying, or legislative activities, private foundations, or litigation or legal expenses for the organization. In some cases, we will fund fundraising or advertising activities if it is directly linked to the proposal and the services being provided by the proposal. We will not fund fundraising and advertising for general awareness of an organization. So, for example, we will not fund an organization's annual gala fundraiser. We will not underwrite those types of things. Impact Central Illinois does not assign proposals to the different grant review committees. Rather, it is the nonprofit who selects where to submit their proposal. The only requirement is that the nonprofit use their previous year's gross receipts to determine if they are competing for either the impact grant, which is our grant of at least $100,000, or if they are competing for the smaller Inspire grant reserved for smaller nonprofits. This does mean that in some years, one GRC may have more proposals to review than the other GRCs. We are flexible when that happens, and we consider it an honor to learn about more organizations doing important work in our community. Regardless of the number of proposals received within each grant review committee, each GRC is still responsible for selecting the strongest 2 proposals to ultimately represent their committee as finalists for our annual meeting. As we begin the grant review process, we know that many of you may have never reviewed a grant before, and we absolutely welcome that. We also know that many of you are returning to serve on a GRC and at this point have several years of experience. We also welcome that. We believe that by welcoming each of you to the grant review table and sharing with you about the nonprofits and needs in our community, we can start to create ripples of transformation across Central Illinois. Please remember that we are serious about disclosing conflicts of interest. As part of the sign-up process for the GRC, you have already submitted any conflicts of interest and signed the member expectation agreement. However, we do know that new conflicts may be discovered as we see who has submitted proposals for our consideration. Please make certain to let the grants chair know as soon as possible if a new conflict is brought to your attention. Conflicts do not preclude you from sitting on a GRC. We just need to move you to a committee where no such conflicts exist. Please also remember that everything that happens and is shared within a GRC meeting is considered absolutely confidential. Please treat the nonprofit organizations and the information they share with us with great respect and keep those reviews and discussions completely confidential. Imagine yourself in the role of an analyst, but what does that actually mean? In short, we are asking you to bring yourself to the table, your experiences, education, wisdom, worldview, perspective. Approach the first reading of the very first LOI proposal with curiosity and interest. Do not be biased against a proposal because you may happen to know someone who works there or you have seen something in the news. Be open to listening to the proposal, reading the proposal from the perspective of the nonprofit. Do not be afraid to educate yourself. You may absolutely visit the organization's website or do research from articles and annual reports. Full financial reviews will also be conducted in the second phase of the grant cycle by the financial review committees. But don't be afraid to look at the numbers yourself. Open the budget, which is an attached file to the LOI proposal you will receive in the portal. See where that nonprofit is suggesting the money is going to be spent. The only thing we ask is that you absolutely do not contact the organization directly. Remember, all communication must go through our nonprofit liaison. Every woman on the GRC has a voice and a story to share. And part of what makes us better together is creating an environment where different perspectives and opinions are able to be shared freely. We care very much about maintaining a respectful environment within the GRC, so every woman feels comfortable not only by having a seat at the table, but by having a voice at the table. Bias or hearsay can derail a constructive conversation, so your GRC chairs have been asked to facilitate and redirect those situations. Please remember to be kind and patient with each other. Your chairs and co-chairs will make certain that everyone is given a chance to share. And should you have any concerns that not all voices are being heard, please let your grants leadership team know immediately. Finally, we hope to fund the strongest proposals from each year. As GRCs, you are selecting the finalists who will have an opportunity to present their ideas to our entire membership. That is an awesome responsibility. In selecting the strongest proposals, it is important to realize that we do not tell the nonprofits what we want to fund. We listen to them and we read their proposals. We read what they have said are important for the needs of our community. We then find the strongest and most compelling proposals from those which have been submitted this year. Once an organization submits their proposal online and that proposal is deemed eligible based upon our requirements, it is then the responsibility of the grant review committees, the GRCs, to review those proposals using a transparent and fair process. We use a 5-phase funnel as the template for our grant cycle. At the conclusion of each of the 5 phases, selected nonprofits are invited forward to share more detail about their proposal. We work very hard to align the intensity of the information requested with the grant cycle phases. So the information which is requested does become more detailed as a nonprofit progresses through the funnel. At the conclusion of each phase, we either invite the nonprofit forward so we can learn more about them, or we give feedback as to why no invitation was extended. While we acknowledge our grant cycle is long, we believe that by engaging you throughout the process as you learn more about a nonprofit organization and their proposal, we are able to deepen our understanding of our community. The goal for each GRC is to bring forward the 2 strongest proposals from your specific committee as finalists in June. At that time, the 2 finalists from each of the GRCs are given an opportunity to present to the entire Impact Central Illinois membership and to compete for the grant awards that are awarded that evening. It is our desire to support proposals presented by 1, highly capable organizations, 2, addressing measurable needs in our community, with 3, innovative solutions. We have worked to define what each of these 3 key criteria mean, and we have also worked to align each of the questions we ask throughout the grant cycle to one of these 3 key criteria. We believe the work we have done to define and share these key criteria openly and transparently ultimately strengthens the quality of the proposals submitted for your review each year. Impact Central Illinois has also worked hard to streamline our communication with our grant review committees, and we use an online portal to distribute all the proposals and supporting documentation. As a member of the GRC, you will receive automatic email notifications from the portal. Following the links, opening and reading the proposals, and submitting your scores is important in your preparation for the GRC meetings. You should also note that the email that you have on file in the portal database is the email that will receive all of this communication. The second part of our selection process is when we gather together, both virtually and around the same table, to discuss the proposals and determine the invitations to move forward. Both the online portal and the GRC discussion are important steps in determining the strongest proposals to move forward in the grant review cycle. We know that each one of you leads a very busy life, with obligations and responsibilities pulling at you for attention. That is why we are so thankful that you have chosen to be involved with the GRC. We truly care about fostering an environment where each one of you feels valued, heard, and appreciated. And we are committed to creating an environment in the GRC where constructive conversation and collective decision-making can thrive. We also hope that the connections that are made within your GRC can enlarge your circle of community within Central Illinois. Some of the beliefs that we hold dear as a grants leadership team are: we believe that every woman brings valuable knowledge, insight, and life experience to our organization, and we welcome every member to the grant review process, regardless of where she may be on her philanthropic journey. We need each one of you in this process, and we want you to be heard and respected. You may not personally love the final decision that your committee lands upon, but we do want each of you to feel satisfied in the process which led you to that decision. We believe every nonprofit in our community deserves our respect and we recognize them as the experts in determining what type of programs and projects our community most needs. When trying to decide between strong proposals, it can be very tempting to second guess the nonprofits on some of their decisions which are being proposed. We encourage you to be wary of the tendency to question their expertise from the front lines of service, and instead encourage you to work hard to find the strengths that lie within each proposal. And finally, we believe in the value of meeting together as grant review committees. We think that conversation around a table with women bringing different life experiences and different perspectives is important for us, both individually and frankly, it's important for our society. We facilitate constructive conversation and scoring within each committee prior to any final decisions being made regarding the invitations to move forward. This focus on both reading the submitted material and discussing it as a group is an important component of our process and allows us to learn from each other as we work together to make tough decisions. While we always offer a Zoom option for our meetings, please know that the women in your GRC want to get to know you, and we welcome the opportunity to work together around an actual table. We are so excited that each one of you has said yes to getting involved in the grant review cycle this year. We look forward to meeting each of you at our first meeting, the LOI Reveal meeting. Make certain to attend this kickoff to learn the important next steps in the grant review cycle. You will be receiving details about this kickoff meeting from your GRC chair in your email very soon. Thank you again, and we look forward to a fantastic year.